All right, hello and welcome everybody to a new special edition of the Dead Draw Gaming Podcast. I'm not joined by three incredibly skilled gamers, but only one this time, the one and only Jake Gearhart. Jake, how's Worlds testing going, buddy?
Going pretty well. Yeah, in the middle of it. Yeah, making progress. I'll say that much.
You know what? We take those. We'll go a little bit more in depth on some World stuff, particularly in the Patreon bonus episode after we record this episode. But yeah, I've talked before about trying some different format stuff for the podcast because obviously during this kind of downtime, there's not really the normal format where it's just like four of us talking about all the decks in the format going into like a tournament. It doesn't really work when there's no tournaments. So we're trying something different this time, and we'll probably cover some different topics whenever the need arises with me and Jake in the future. I was kind of hoping to do more different topics during this period before Worlds, and I didn't realize because we do every other week. There's basically one podcast where we could do that, and it's like this one because the next podcast is like technically like two before Worlds, and then 2 weeks before Worlds, and then we can do one the week of Worlds, but we really don't have that much time to cover other topics, so we'll just try to sprinkle those in during the season. Um, but yeah, so I just came back from a league challenge. I just won that, not to brag or anything, but I did just come back from that, and it was incredibly stacked. I posted about it on Twitter, and I want to bring it up because if you're wondering why people like Gabriel Smart and Andrew Hedrick of Dead Drug Gaming fame are in Chicago, it is because we are doing some content stuff tomorrow or Saturday. They're actually in town for testing reasons. Their whole testing group's here, but we're going to be recording a bunch of content for the Dead Draw Gaming channel, a bunch of interviews, tabletop videos with the pros, etc., etc. So make sure you subscribe to the channel for those. Just wanted to throw out the little teaser for that. But before we get into the main topic of this episode, which is the new cards in the Stellar Crown set, it's Stellar Miracle in Japan, but it's Stellar Crown here. I wanted to just quickly go over some World stuff. Jake, you've been playing a lot of the format. We did some tabletop videos here on the channel. What do you? How are things kind of like shaking out for you? How are you feeling about it compared to like current format?
I mean, I think I like pre-Shrouded Fable format like a bit better because Reggie Drago gets a lot more powerful with the next set,
Yeah.
and it's a pretty high rolly deck. So it's kind of just annoying for that deck to be uh, as it is. Like if you pull off the Curum play, a lot of the times you can just win the game from that. It's pretty high rolly, so I don't like when those decks are sort of in the top three. Um, but aside from that, like the Dusknoir card isn't causing any like major problems. It seems
Yeah.
it's doing pretty well. It's like the only way I think like making the game faster is like actually a positive because Dusknoir like you have the option to make the game faster, and it's like a lot of the times that you shouldn't use your Dusknoir, you should save it or just not use it, just put it in play. So it's like an option that
Mm-hmm.
locks your opponent out of plays. It's just much more in depth and interesting card than something like Iron Hands, which just takes the extra prize right away.
Yeah, I think the Death Star thing has been a lot more interesting in testing than I kind of thought about it because I was like, oh, you just destroy my Cinchino or whatever. You can kill Lugia early, no problem with it. But there are downsides to it, and it is like I've kind of gone back and forth whether or not things like Ogre Pawn or just like bench snipers in general, how valuable they are in the next format. And if you have something like Ogre Pawn in your list, you're putting so much pressure on your start opponent to like have a Duskull and like Manaphy, and there's like they just can't do everything they want to do when you have so many options to pressure them. So it's been kind of interesting playing more Zard games in next format. And again, we'll talk more in depth on kind of how we're thinking for Worlds format. But yeah, is there anything else you wanted to mention at like a high level for Worlds early impressions?
I don't think so, really. I think pretty much everybody's keeping everything under
Yeah.
wraps. There's not like too much that's like not public information right now. I
Sure.
think it's the format's pretty similar to the like NAIC format, but like for lists and tech cards and things, I'm sure we'll see a um, lot like very refined lists at Worlds because everybody's testing for so long.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy like the this like 2 month preparation break before Worlds. I mean, it's a break for most people, but everyone testing for Worlds, it's like, yeah, putting in
Yeah,
lots of
real
time.
try hard hours for sure. I mean, you have to, right? It's the thing you have been working for a lot of the year. You might as well put your all into it, right? So really excited to see how some of the world stuff shakes out again. We're gonna do more tabletop videos in the world's format with other players than me and Jake. Those will go up probably starting next week on the Dead Draw Gaming channel, so you can check those out. But now let's go ahead and talk about the new cards in Stellar Crown. I almost called it Miracle again. So Stellar Crown comes out here internationally September. I don't remember exactly when in September, but this will be. Do you know what the first tournament is in Stellar Crown format? First regional?
It's a tournament, a regional in Europe. Our first regional with Stellar Crown will be the second regional. So we'll have Baltimore, and then the set releases like the set becomes legal like the following week or
Right.
the
Yeah,
week
because
after
it's
that.
literally
And
like right before you.
there's a regionals in Europe, and then one in US the next week. I think might be one in Latin America
Okay.
in between though. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Is there one before Toronto, or is Toronto the first?
Um, I don't remember whatever the second regional is.
Oh, Toronto's
Oh yeah,
December.
Toronto's in December.
So
So yeah,
then there's one more before that. Yeah, there's Louisville. There's
yeah,
Louisville.
whichever one's in October.
Yeah,
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 there's one in November too, I think.
yeah. It shows how much
Yeah.
I've been keeping track of when events are. But yeah, so this will be relevant sooner rather than later for a lot of us, especially those not going to Worlds. We're gonna just have like the one tournament, Baltimore in Shrouded Fable format, and then it's gonna go away for those outside of like NA. So the sooner you get started looking at these cards, the better, because there's a lot of really interesting and really cool cards here. Jake has a lot of thoughts on them, and I think we're going to start with the trainer cards. Going to go with Glass Trumpet here. You can only play this card if you have a Terra Pokemon in play. Choose up to 2 of your bench colorless Pokemon. Attach a basic energy from your discard pile to each of them. This is a card everyone is like freaking out about on Twitter, and there's a lot of cards in the set that are like, if you have a Terra Pokemon in play, you can play it. And again, Zard is a Terra Pokemon. There's a lot of Terra Pokemon in general, so it's pretty easy to meet that requirement. But how do you think this card's gonna mess with things?
Yeah, so I think this card is really
Yeah,
crazy. It's not for the same reasons that I think most people were freaking out about at the start. Like yeah, there's some combos with colorless Pokemon that you can do, but the main ones are uh, stuff like just putting the energy in play and then moving it off via various different things. So one of the like most obvious ones is like Armor Rouge,
yeah,
where you can just play a glass trumpet, attach 2 energies to like 2 Bidoofs or Barrels, and then move them into play with Armor Rouge. So you can get like a turn where you just put 8 fire energy out of your discard pile into play if you want, which is pretty crazy. There's a lot you can do with that. There's also Thornton. You can play a couple of glass trumpets and then play a Thornton and swap out any type of Pokemon you want. Um, and then also just energy switch as the last one. So even just thinking about like one glass trumpet in like a Dragapult deck plus one energy switch is probably going to be better than like a Mela or a Crispin. We'll get to
sure.
another supporter in this set, because you can just glass trumpet to your
Yeah,
Pidgeot EX or Bidoof or
yeah. So,
Bavero, and then
so
play one energy
so many
switch
decks just have
and
a
move the
colorless
energy off.
Pokemon already that they can just use this with.
Yeah, yeah. So you just need a way to move the energy off, and a 2 card item combo is usually easier to play over the course of the game, especially because you don't need them in the same turn. You can play the glass trumpet whenever you draw it. Just put a random energy in play on your Pidgey, and then move it off when you need it later when you find your one of energy switch.
Yes.
But yeah, I think the what will be really crazy about the glass trumpet is some of the huge combo plays you can do with Thornton, and like multiple glass trumpets or multiple energy switches, in combination with a Pokemon we'll get to a bit later in the review.
Yeah, pretty interesting card. Very, very powerful item card, and we'll definitely see play in some form or another going into the next format. So you wanted to cover the good fossil. There's also the Tatruga fossil. We're not going to cover it because it's bad. But this fossil, as long as this Pokemon is in play in the active spot, your opponent's base Pokemon attacks cost 1 colorless more, and it is normally just a 60 HP basic colorless Pokemon. And if you haven't messed with like these types of cards before, you can discard them whenever you want from play. So even though you can't retreat it, you can still get rid of it whenever. But why is this card special, Jake?
Yeah, there was a Gumi with this same ability in Forbidden Light, which was about 2018
Hmm.
format, I think. And that actually saw like a decent amount of play in some stall decks. The Gumi worked on all stages, I think. So the fossil's a little bit more restricting,
Yeah.
that only works on basics. But there's like a lot of decks. If you think of decks like that are ever attacking with like a 2 energy basic attacker, or 3 energy, even like something like Raging Bolt, for
Hmm.
example. Getting the 3rd energy on your Raging Bolt is like a problem sometimes. It's a lot harder to get the 3rd energy on there in one turn. So something like the fossil can stop an attack for a turn. And if you're doing something else to increase the opponent's retreat cost, like there's the Stadium card that increases the retreat cost, and there's also a Tool card in this set, which increases the retreat cost of and both active Pokemon. So you can put that Tool card on this, then put the Stadium in play, and lock something active, force it to attach way more energies than normal to attack.
Sure.
Um, and so, yeah, just something to watch out for in those like control stall type decks.
Yeah, there's a couple of fun things that control type decks can work into their list, and we'll cover those as we go along. So yeah, not covering the Tortuga fossil. There are these two berries, the Payapa berry. Sorry, I forgot this is Pokemon where they can't have normal fruit names. Payapa berry and the Occa berry. So they basically do the same thing, but just for different types, right? Yeah, for psychic and for fire types. So whenever this Pokemon this card is attached to is damaged by an attack from your opponent's psychic Pokemon, again for Aqua that'd be fire type. This Pokemon takes 60 less damage from that attack, and then you discard the card. What do you think about with these cards?
Yeah, so I think right now the types that these target aren't too great, but in the past when we've gotten these like they start off printing 2 different types or multiple different types for like a certain trainer, and then over the course of the next sets, like finish out all of the types. So I expect we'll end up seeing the same thing. The last
Sure.
time was the
The
glove
gloves, yeah,
cards,
yeah.
justified gloves. Was one of the main ones from before. I think these ones are pretty interesting, even more so than the damage boosting ones, because you can the damage boosting ones, like they would really the one that saw play was the justified gloves,
Right.
because you could, in the Charizard mirror, you could hit a Charizard when your opponent was on 2 prize cards for 330. And so that was like a very very niche play. It would let you win the game 1 turn sooner in that specific matchup. But these are more flexible, and they basically, like in combination with hand disruption or whatever, you can just buy a turn. Or if you have you can play multiple of these and force your opponent to burn their out to a tool card, and then need to deal with this. And if this takes an opponent's attack from a 1-hit knockout to a 2-hit knockout, that gives you a whole extra turn to play the game.
Hmm.
So these cards could be really huge, like swing cards in specific matchups. So I think they're always going to be ones to watch out for, like thinking about deck building and how you can improve different matchups. Like you could think of, if they had a dark one of these, you could put it in Gardevoir right now, and then Gardevoir would survive the first attack from a Charizard
Mm.
EX before you've taken any prize cards. Some situations like that could come up in the future.
That'd be pretty good. That'd be pretty darn good. But yeah, just psychic and fire types for now. We'll see if we get anything else in the future. First A spec to cover the Sparkling Crystal. The attack cost of the Terra Pokemon this card is attached to is reduced by 1 of any type of energy. I'm trying to think of like, well, I guess this is actually pretty relevant specifically for the Terra Pokemon that are in this set too. We'll talk about that later because they tend to have really weird energy requirements stuff. Is there anything you're thinking about for this for like existing Terra cards where this matters a lot?
Yeah, this one's like a major change for two specific Terra Pokemon. One is Dragapult.
True,
So
true.
you can Arvin for your Neo Upper Energy now, basically. And it can't get like removed. See, if you attach a basic energy, attach Sparkling Crystal, you can Phantom Dive. And then if your opponent like lost vacuums your Sparkling Crystal, it's
Yeah,
fine. You can just attach another
right.
energy. Where the problem with like Neo Upper Energy is, one, it's hard to find, and two, your opponent enhanced hammers, and now you're stuck with a Dragapult with no energy on it that can't attack. So Sparkling Crystal completely fixes that issue. And something like the Glass Trumpet Energy Switch combo with the Sparkling Crystal, like you can power up a Dragapult in one turn. Um, yeah, that adds a lot to
Yeah.
Dragapult in terms of consistency, because the deck is always playing like 3 or 4 Arven. Um, and it also gives you another like important early game target for Arven, which is often something that you're missing with those cards. Like you always want to grab the Forest Sealstone as the first one, and then your second Arven is just getting nothing.
Yeah.
So the Sparkling Crystal is what it's going to get now. And then the other one that's pretty big with this is the Water Ogrepon EX,
Mm.
because you can attack for 1 double turbo energy with the Sparkling Crystal now. So any deck which plays a double turbo energy can play this Sparkling Crystal, the Ogrepon, and a Canceling Cologne, and immediately have a threat that they can pull out of nowhere. As long as they can search for 2 trainer cards, you can wipe out an opponent's two an opponent's Pokemon.
This is the same for all the ogre pawns, right? Aren't they all like? Oh, I guess except for grass one, but yeah, you could do this with cornerstone too, right? And just be annoying with that.
Yeah, most of the other attacks are pretty bad though. It's the the water Ogrepon's like the one when you're using sort of a like especially an ace spec like a tool that can get lost vacuumed. Like you want to look for something that gives immediate payoff in
Sure.
terms of attacks because um, yeah, like Sparkling Crystal, this basically makes it so you win the game 1 turn sooner if you pull off a play like this. So that's definitely worth an ace spec slot in some kind of deck, similar to like unfair stamp where you're trying to play it to get an extra turn to play the game,
Right.
or prime catcher you're trying to win 1 turn sooner. Um, yeah, same thing with this card. It's on par with some like I think this is probably like a B or a B to A tier A spec, maybe A tier. Yeah,
Hmm.
if we say
High
like
praise.
Prime Catcher and Unfair Stamp are like the S tier, then Sparkling Crystal and Legacy Energy are probably in that B tier. Maybe a couple others.
Dude, we'll just play this in Lugia to not to Ogrepon for free. Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
and then you can't play your Legacy Energy.
You don't need it. It's fine. Gravity Stone. The Pokemon this card is attached to is in the active spot. The retreat cost of both active Pokemon is colorless more. I guess this kind of pairs in with the other cards here, right? Just another annoying thing to bother your opponent with, keep them trapped, keep them stuck. Anything else you want to mention with it?
Yeah, another combo you can do with besides the fossil is the like Scream Tail with the Gravity Stone. Any bench snipe attack, or you can bring up something with now you can even bring up like a one retreater and have the Gravity Stone, and now that's trapped. So yeah, something like an opponent has a Radiant Greninja in play. Now you can bring it up, Gravity Stone, Scream Tail, an opponent's bench. Even if they didn't have another liability, or you wanted to knock out a liability like Bibarel, then in this case now you'd be able to keep that like lock and buy yourself a turn. That's sort of all with all these like non-consistency like one of cards. You're always trying to aim for either being able to play the game 1 turn longer or win the game 1 turn sooner. And any card that kind of lets you do that, similar to this like Gravity Stone, is definitely worth thinking about.
Yeah, makes sense. Keeping the tool train going. We got another interesting tool here. Another ace spec, the Deluxe Bomb. If the Pokemon this card is attached to is in the active spot and takes damage from an opponent's Pokemon's attack, put 12 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon. If you put any damage counters this way, discard this card. So it's not it is literally a bomb. It is a one-time use thing. Again, something to note too with these tools is you can recycle these because of Roseanne's, but because they don't have the thing like Legacy where you can't use the effect again. But just pointing that out. So yeah, what's scary about this? Is there anything scary about it?
No, I just wanted to mention this because this is an A spec,
Yeah.
so most
Is
people will
is
expect us to
is this
talk
lower
about it,
than
but I
A
think this
tier?
card is pretty
Yeah.
bad. Yeah, this is kind of going into that into the like maybe the like Hero's Cape, Survival Brace, like kind of territory.
Okay.
They're like decent A spec cards, but you need like a really specific use case
Yeah.
where a card like this will see play. Um, yeah, like we saw Hero's Cape see play in many decks
Hmm.
so far, so I'm sure this will pop up eventually. Especially like there's a lot of good tools to use now, especially like in this set, the Gravity Stone Deluxe Bomb. So if you're trying to like burn your opponent out of tool removal, can be like an important strategy. So to where you sort of you make your opponent deal with one tool and then put the deluxe bomb on something, and now they're stuck with no answer to it.
Yeah, pretty interesting. Don't expect. I can't think of any like deck that would want to play this right now, but maybe someday there'll be a good reason to play it. Now we're getting to the supporters. Crispin, a very interesting supporter. Search your deck for up to 2 basic energy cards of different types. Reveal them to your Pokemon and put one of them into your hand. Attach the other energy to one of your Pokemon, then shuffle your deck. This is another card that people were hyping up on Twitter. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, so I don't actually think this card is that strong.
Really?
Um, yeah, so well, first of all, you have to be playing two different types of basic energy to be able to use it, because the first energy goes to your hand, and you only get to attack the second energy that's a
Sure.
different type. So you need to have both, um, and then it's using up your supporter for the turn. So in this set we have the glass trumpet, and you can play like energy switch, and that'll help any of these like multicolored energy type decks uh, get energy acceleration in the forms of an item card, whereas Crispin is only doing it like on a supporter, so it's hard to find, and then you're using your supporter for the turn on this instead of like something like an Arbin or a hand disruption card like Iono or Boss. So I'm sure this card will see play, but um, it's yeah probably a one of in various decks. Um, so yeah, it'll probably see play, but I don't think it's that powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like it can let you set up an attacker out of nowhere, so that's always something to look out for. But usually, uh, well, I think in this case now with the glass trumpet coming out, most decks will have the ability to do that with an item card,
Sure.
where you don't really need to use this Crispin. The one thing it does actually set up though is Radiant Greninja. So I could imagine some deck playing just 2 water energy in addition to whatever other types the deck plays, and 1 Crispin, and you can just Radiant Greninja out of nowhere, as long as you got an attachment on the Greninja in a previous turn.
Sure. That seems pretty strong. Yeah. I was thinking about this when I first saw this. I was like, "Oh, this is cool for Dragapult," because then it just solves your problem of getting the attachments down. But yeah, the this is better for that. This solves that problem better. So definitely makes sense. I think you said Lacey, not too much to talk about there. Kofu is a card you were actually excited about, not because there's I think it's a Veluza or something that synergizes with it.
Yeah, there's a couple
There's a
random
couple
things that combo
random
with
like
it.
water Pokemon that synergize with it. Like the more Kofu you have, the more damage you do, or something like that. We're not going to cover those cards, but you wanted to point it out because it's draw 4 essentially. There's a marginal downside, but it is a draw 4 card. You have to put 2 cards from your hand on the bottom of your deck in any order, and then you draw 4 cards. And if you can't put those 2 cards from your hand to the bottom of your deck, you can't play the card. Why is draw 4 so good? Why won't they give it in any other card?
Yeah, so I don't think this card is amazing, but draw 4 is like it's significantly better than draw 3. Like you can imagine the difference between I guess it's all over a year old at this point, but something like Marnie, a card where you're drawing 5 cards and your opponent's drawing 4. Like the difference
Yeah.
between 5 and 4 is like pretty obvious,
I
and then even
I thought you were going to
thinking
say
about like a
Dan when you mentioned a
oh
year ago.
Dan, no. uh, no, but the difference between like a single card is pretty big. Like yeah, also you think about like Iono at the start of the game, Iono getting you a new 6 card hand versus playing a research. Getting the 7th card is it's a little less impactful at that point,
Sure.
but with the smaller numbers, it makes a much bigger difference. So draw 4 is like just not a bad effect, and I could definitely see like some deck trying to build a hand. This is probably one of the best cards in the format that just lets you build on an existing hand.
Mm-hmm.
You do have to get rid of cards though, which is not ideal. But something like a control deck wouldn't like hate playing this card just to get like more cards in
Yeah.
hand, or a yeah, there's a bunch of different scenarios where you'd want to just have a bigger hand, and Kofu can do that. yeah, it might be a little too weak, but because you have to put the 2 cards back,
Hmm.
if it was like 1 card back, then this card would definitely see play, like, in, a bunch of different decks, I'd imagine, but, yeah, we'll see if it ends up doing anything.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I know draw four. They're too scared to give us the raw draw four because it is very strong. So this is, I guess, this is the closest we'll get for now. And now it's time for the scariest card of the set. This is the card you told me going into this that we could talk for 15 minutes about Briar. This card is ridiculous. Twitter was freaking out when this got posted. Briar, you can only play this card if your opponent has exactly 2 prize cards remaining. Until the end of this turn, if your opponent's active Pokemon is knocked out by damage from one of your Terra Pokemon's attacks, take 1 more prize card. So it is Jake's favorite type of card where you are taking more prize cards as a result of playing it. And it works with Terra Pokemon, and there are some very good Terra decks out there, like Charizard. There's a bunch of new Terra cards printed in this set as well. And yeah, this card is ridiculous, and I'm not looking forward to playing with it and around it.
Yeah, so this card is yeah, very good, and it's also complicated why it's good. So, well, first of all the different things that can use it. There's like Charizard is the most
Right.
obvious, easy search for it. Pidgeot, also Dragapult. Sort of like the 2 main terras that exist right now. Um, they're pretty strong. They play Pidgeot often, so they can find the Briar on the turn where you need it. And it also combos really well with Dusclops and Dusknoir, where you can sort of force your opponent onto
Right.
the 2 prize cards. So you could imagine a Charizard deck. You have Charizard player has 4 prize cards left. You go down to 3 prize cards. Charizard player uses Dusknoir to blow up one of your Pokemon. You take 1 prize card. They take 1 prize card. Charizard's at 3. Then you play the Briar, and Charizard 1-hit knockouts one of your whatever
Right.
Pokemon, or they can even pop another Dusclops or Dusknoir to put 50 damage on something, and then Charizard takes a 3 prize turn, so they take 4 prize cards overall in a single turn. So that play is just kind of
Yeah.
ridiculous. So it'll make Charizard mirrors kind of interesting because as soon as you go down to 3 prize cards, you probably lose the
Yeah,
game.
this is so. It's
So
gonna
you
make it
can't do
so much
that.
longer now too. Everyone's gonna be thinking through their
uh,
actions.
yeah, yeah, we'll see. Like, I wonder if like the Dusclops counts will go up even. Well, I'm sure like double Duskull will be more common once this card comes out because you can do that like Dusk. If your opponent's at 3 prize cards, you go Dusknoir, Briar, Dusclops, knockout,
Sure.
um, and that play is just very very strong. Um, so that's like already really good. Then there's all the other random Terra Pokemon that you can use. So if you think about Gardevoir EX, it doesn't play any Terra Pokemon, but there is a random Dedenne EX that does 170 damage, and it's a Terra Pokemon, and it's a basic. So you could imagine Gardevoir playing a Gallade in the deck, and then just whenever the opponent's at 2 prize cards, like Gardevoir is pretty good at forcing opponents to take like single prize
Sure.
cards. So as soon as they take that, you can do like a couple Monkey Dory damage moves, get the 170 damage up to a higher number, and then take a 3 prize turn with Gardevoir, or just 2 prize cards on a 1 prizer. So in the Gardevoir mirror, that'd be a pretty like impactful play to just skip a turn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, um, but yeah, then there's also all the new Terra Pokemon in this set that we'll get to, which can combo with this. One of the main arguments that people have against Briar, or like main things people say, but don't fully think through their argument, is that okay, what if I so like ignoring the decks with the Dusknoir and Duskull or Dusclops, what if I just instead of going taking 2 prize cards going to 4, taking 2 going to 2, and then winning the game the next turn? What if I instead go down to 5 prize cards and then 3 and then 2 and then 1, and then prevent the opponent from ever playing Briar? Well, in that case, you've just won the game one turn slower,
Yeah.
so I get an extra attack. So I don't care if I don't get to play my Briar. I'm attacking an extra time. Um, so yeah, like either way now, you just can't get around it. They're going to Briar in the deck basically means you get an extra attack in the game. You
Yeah.
either need one less attack to win the game or take an extra attack. So I think this card also like has sort of a detrimental impact on like comebacks. It decks that play Briar at all are going to be much harder to come back against. Like I could imagine even something like Raging Bolt, just playing Briar and like Luminion in it, because like if you get to a point where like something like Gardevoir's game plan is really the Raging Bolt player gets uh, 2 or 3 prize cards ahead, and then Gardevoir player takes 2 prize cards every turn, and they win the game just by manipulating the prize trade,
Hmm.
because the Raging Bolt player has no way to take extra prize cards if you can Turo your Gardevoir out of play. But now Briar sort of eliminates that 2/2/2 possibility, where just an Ogre Pawn can come active, like Luminion for Briar, and take 2 prize cards with the Ogre Pawn. Um, so yeah, it's much harder to come back if your opponent has like the ability to set up to the point where they can find the Briar on the turn where you're at 2 prize cards. You just lose
Hmm.
instead of having ways to like get around that. So this just makes single prize decks like a lot worse. Something like Lost Box is going to have a problem if Raging Bolt plays this card, because they can manipulate the prize trade, and
Yeah.
that like a Lost Box a lot of the time, if they can't do the 5 energy Blood Moon or Saluna, you have to go like a single prizer route, but that just doesn't work if the opponent has Briar in their deck. So yeah, it eliminates a lot of play because of that. So it'll make a couple matchups more interesting, like the Charizard one specifically, but some of the other ones might get a little bit worse. But also another one is the Dragapult like can just completely win the game in like 2 attacks pretty easily now. Especially if you combo it with a Dusclops and Dusknoir, just the damage spread plus Briar taking
Gosh,
an extra prize card plus everything.
this card's so wild. Yeah, like I'm also just like I've never been a fan of cards that kind of require you to play around some arbitrary number of prize cards. It's just another layer of like annoyingness to deal with sometimes. And obviously like it's 2 for a reason. But it's just another number to like think of and keep track of and play your entire game around. Like you said, like just having this card in your deck, in your opponent's deck, just completely alters how you will play the match. And I'm not a fan of that.
I kind of like the like when it happens like that. Like something like Roxanne is one of the like you have to
Yeah,
be
Roxanne's the
wary of
other
when
one.
going
Yeah.
to Roxanne range. We had like Beast Ring a while ago, where it like accelerated 2 energy to your Ultra Beast if your opponent was on 3 or 4 prize cards, and like coming up with game plans to skip over those prize card numbers was like pretty important.
Hmm.
I like it when they print like basically traps where your opponent can fall into them by not playing perfectly. The issue I have with Briar is just that it it gives so much benefit to uh, aggressive decks, which like it makes the like 2/2/2 prize race or prize trade so much
Yeah.
worse. Or so much less feasible, which makes the aggressive decks stronger
Hmm.
as long as they can play this card. Whereas I think if Briar only worked if you had like 3 prize cards left, or if the opponent had 3 prize cards left or 1 prize card left, I think I might like it better then. Maybe not 3 because it'd probably be too fast in like Dusknoir
Sure,
range.
sure.
But if the opponent had 1 prize card, I think I'd like Briar as a card a lot better,
Yeah.
um, because you either like in that case you're still playing around. You have to play around going down to 1 prize card and just losing, but still going the game plan of 2/2/2 is like it's the viable strategy against the aggressive decks, and it's up to the opponent to sort of force you off that path. And once they get you off that path, you just lose the game even more often now,
Sure.
which would have been better, I think.
All right. So I'll make sure to do 2, 3, 1 prize maps with Amp going forward. to deal with this. So Great Tree, another ace spec. This one's a stadium. This is such a Yu-Gi-Oh length card. There's so much text on this. Once during each player's turn, that player may search their deck for a stage 1 Pokemon that evolves from one of their basic Pokemon, and you just put it on the Pokemon and evolve it. So that Pokemon is now a stage 1 Pokemon. They search their deck for a stage 2 that evolves and then put it on top of it. And then that player shuffles their deck. You cannot use this effect on a basic Pokemon on your first turn or on a basic Pokemon that was put into play on this turn. So obviously a pretty strong effect, but on a stadium that your opponent can also use. Is this broken? Is this what do you think?
I think it's just a solid card. Like this is another like high B or A tier A
Mm-hmm.
spec. It helps like alleviate the pressure off of rare candy a lot of the time, and make something setting up something like Dusknoir a bit easier
Sure.
too, because you don't have to find the pieces. One of the hard parts about utilizing Dusknoir is actually finding the Dusclops or Dusknoir, because playing an Ultra Ball for them is like it's really costly. Playing an Ultra Ball in general is just a really costly card. So Great Tree has that benefit of searching. It also like Devo proofs you as a stage 2 deck. Like you can't, yeah. The issue with rare candy is that you can just get devolved, and then if you've used up all your rare candies, you're out of luck. Where Great Tree kind of saves you in that case. Um, yeah, there's some like interesting stuff you can do with it too, with like Dialga V Star if you want to like Dialga get into a Dusknoir, pop the Dusknoir, Dialga V Star, and then you get another use out of Great Tree because you can take an extra turn.
Mm-hmm.
So there could be something there with that. But overall, it's like a fifth rare candy that's like a bit better than a rare candy in some spots, a bit worse in others
Sure.
because you have to have the stage 1.
Right. Yeah, pretty interesting card. I look forward to see what people cook up with it. And going into the other stadium now, Area Zero Underdepths. This one's another extremely interesting one. So if a player has a Terra Pokemon in play, that player can have 8 Pokemon on their bench. We have come back to 8 Pokemon benches. I think we haven't had it since Eternatus, right? That was the last time we had this effect. It's an effect that's come in and out of play throughout Pokemon history. But when this card leaves play, or the Pokemon or the player no longer has a Terra Pokemon, you just have to discard the extra Pokemon until you have 5 Pokemon on your bench. This also like combos with some other cards later that we'll talk about. But any immediate thoughts you want to mention with it?
Yeah, so one of the like really great things you can do with this card is just like Collapse Stadium, you can use it as a healing
Mm-hmm.
card or like a board fixing card. Um, so something like Charizard always has issues with bench space where they've got like the Rotom and Lumineon in play often that they want to get rid of, and you play Collapse Stadium, can get rid of one of them. But then your bench is stuck. You want to put more Charmanders down, more Pidgeys, more Bidoofs, whatever, more Duskulls, but you have no room.
Yeah.
Now Charizard can just replace the Collapse Stadium with the Area Zero Underdepths. And then when they want to remove the Rotom and Lumineon from play, play Area Zero, play a Poffin, maybe an extra basic from your hand, another Poffin, and then vacuum away the stadium and
Sure.
get rid of all the liabilities in one go. You can also do things like because this card deactivates once a Terra Pokemon is removed from play. You can do something like have one Charizard active, like which is damaged already, and then you can play like a Lumineon onto the bench for the turn, which usually would be kind of dangerous. You're basically giving your opponent the Charizard and then also the
Sure.
Lumineon. Um, Whereas now, if they knock out the Charizard, which is your attacker, which you'd much rather survive, you just get rid of the Lumineon once the Charizard gets knocked out because the Area Zero deactivates, and then when you evolve into another Charizard, you can refill up your bench. And if they knock out the Lumineon instead, then you have your Charizard, which survived the turn, which is usually more beneficial for you. Um, so yeah, the plays like that are really interesting with Area Zero, and yeah, there's also a lot more you can do with bigger benches, especially with stuff like Dusknoir, which hogs a lot of bench
Mm-hmm.
space. If you want to have multiple Duskulls in play to potentially use multiple Dusclopses or Dusknoirs, it's usually not possible to both have the room for that and the room for support Pokemon to find them. but Area Zero kind of changes that.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. I mentioned earlier when we talk about world stuff, but like my biggest problem with Chazard in Shrouded Fable is just like bench space all the time. It's so hard to manage it perfectly to have, enough things that you want because you want the Duskull, potentially Manaphy, Pidgeot, Rotom, turn one, all that stuff, and this can help alleviate a lot of those concerns for sure. So definitely a card that I think we'll see quite a bit of play. And now we can go on to some Pokemon. We're gonna start with this annoying little guy called Mo Rotom. Has Harvesting Dash, which is 30 damage for a colorless, but what's more noteworthy about it is that before doing damage, you discard all Pokemon tool cards and special energy cards from your opponent's active Pokemon. Seems like a nice little annoying guy in some decks, right?
Yeah, so this is mainly a new Lugia tech. There's actually two in this set, but yeah, Mo Rotom can opponent attacks with an Iron Hands with a Legacy Energy and everything, and then you Harvesting Dash, and now they have an Iron Hands which has 4 retreat costs in the active. You can combo with like an Iono plus Temple of Sinnoh, and then your opponent is in a pretty bad spot.
This,
If they want to find the jet energy to move the Iron Hands.
yeah, this also like turbo counters my deck that I played at the challenge today, where I had like the Future Booster too on the Iron Hands. They just discard that. It's so sad. Uh,
Yeah, so yeah, this card yeah, very interesting for that use case, the specific one.
mhm.
If we ever see like other special energy decks come up, it'll probably be an option
Yeah,
for
because
that too.
I was just thinking, there's not really that many other decks where this effect really matters that I can think of right now. Um, Primarily just Lugia, but yeah, in the future it could definitely do more damage. Work into because it's so easy to just throw this into any list too, because it's just a colorless. One retreat
Yeah,
cost.
the only issue with it is that mist energy does block the effect of this.
Oh, true.
So you'd have to combo it with like a Temple of Sinnoh to remove all the energy. But like I think the play that you'd look for against Lugia is that Temple of Sinnoh, Hand Disruption, discard all the energy off of Iron Hands, and then
Yeah.
they can't move the Iron
Yep.
Hands, which is yeah seems like a pretty strong play. Um, but also discarding the tools is nice. There's not a lot of um, like tool removal as far as like Pokemon goes or attacks goes. It doesn't really exist that much right now. So like random tools that something like Snorlax Stall,
Hmm.
you can discard the tools. Like yeah, you wouldn't want to use the effect. You wouldn't play the card for that, but it can come up in
Yeah,
those
when
scenarios.
they flute your Rotom onto the bench and get it trapped inactive, you can do that. There you go.
Yeah.
So we're gonna skip some of these grass Pokemon. Go into Salazzle, which has the sudden burn attack. It's a stage 1 Pokemon, by the way, 120 HP for our audio listeners. Sudden Burn, 2 colorless. Your opponent discards a card from their hand. If this Pokemon evolved from Sland during this turn, they discard 2 more cards. I think the main thing people bring up with this is like doing it after like a late game Iono or Roxanne or Unfair Stamp. What else did you want to mention with this card?
Yeah, this actually combos best with the Zero 6
Oh yeah,
something.
that's
I don't know
that's
what
yeah,
it is
that we
called.
haven't talked about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's the main one from the for Shrouded Fable. Your opponent discards down to 3 cards in hand, and then you Salazzle with a double turbo energy and completely remove their
Yeah.
hand. And you can do that as early as turn 2. So yeah, very strong play. We haven't seen like hand lock as like easy as this for a while, for a few years now. So yeah, I'm not sure if it'll immediately see play because there's a lot of onboard draw right now, and yeah, it's really hard to like deal with that. There's no good way to remove stuff like Babera from play immediately. You can combo it with something like Dusknor if you want, like Dusknor knockout Babera, plus use Salazzle. You can even put the Gravity Stone on Salazzle, bring something active with a high retreat cost, or you're making the retreat cost high. Get rid of your opponent's hand and then sort of dismantle your opponent's board from there, or even like transition into like an aggressive attacker. Like if you just attack with this and then start swinging with Charizard EX, that's pretty powerful too, wiping an opponent's hand. So yeah, I could see that definitely coming up.
Yeah, very strong effect. Really cool to see if what people cook up with it for sure. Getting into first Terra, I guess what is this? this Terra has like a specific name in the game. There's no
Yeah,
Stellar
stellar,
Terra.
but
That's the
it's
name
not
of the
on the
set. Oh
card.
my
Yeah,
gosh. But yeah, there's no
yeah.
relevant like stellar side effect. It's just I think the only thing with Stellar Terra Pokemon is that they just have weird energy requirements. As far as TCG goes, they have the same normal Terra rule that they can't take bench damage, but has two attacks. Power Splash for one water does 4 damage for each energy attached to this Pokemon. And then also has the crazy attack Larimar Rain, which for a water, a psychic, and a metal, you look at the top 20 cards of your deck and attach any number of energy cards you find there to any of your Pokemon in any way you like, and then you shuffle the other cards back into your deck. And again, this is a basic, so you can just slap this down and go for it. Uh, it's kind of a weird bit. Has there been attacks like this in the past in the Pokemon TCG?
They've always been like the GX or V Star attacks. Something like there hasn't been anything that puts 20
Yeah, 20
energy
is
or looks at
ridiculous.
20 cards. There's like the Radiant Steelix, which discards all cards from your
Right.
deck except for one. There's like crazy ones like that, but looking at 20 cards is pretty new. But yeah, I think this card, like both of its attacks, are actually pretty
Yeah.
important. The first one is a Baxcalibur chargeable basic that can use Briar.
Jeez.
So like you can think about Chen Pao could theoretically play Briar and use Lapras to take a big one hit KO for 3 prize cards. Um, they've already got Iron Hands for for knocking out the small things, but you could theoretically do it with the bigger ones
hmm
too, or play like some kind of combo deck with Baxcalibur, like just to do that as the last play. The second attack is also pretty interesting too. Of course, the energy cost is pretty good for it because you can think about like all the really expensive attacks in the game that are great, like Dialga V Star, um, and also like Radiant Greninja is a good one. So you can play water and metal energies and charge up with Dialga and Radiant Greninja in the same turn, like charge up multiple of
hmm
them. And you can power this up in one turn, either by you can use like the like a glass trumpet energy switch combo in combination with the tool card, the Terra tool that we looked at earlier, which reduces the attack cost by one, or you can use the Crispin. I think the glass trumpet energy switch combo is probably a bit easier to pull off because this acts as your Terra
Yep.
Pokemon to be able to do that. So then you have your supporter for the turn. You can play Arvin, find Glass Trumpet plus the Terra tool card, and then if you have an energy switch plus an attachment for the turn, then you've got your Larimar Rain attack right there,
Oh my
and then you
gosh.
get 20 energy in play to do whatever you want with. But not 20 energy in play most of the time.
I
You'll get
hope
like
not 20. You're
probably
protecting.
half
Yeah.
that much. But if you've got a deck with like 15 to 20 energy in it or something, you're going to be hitting
So
a
yeah, if
hitting a good
you get
amount.
20 energy off of that, and then you can power splash for 800 damage, and then you're gonna win the game.
Yeah.
So yeah, it seems like a really cool card, very unique. I'm very curious if like water, psychic, metal, obviously kind of like weird combination of colors to throw in as your basic attack or as your energy cost for your attack, but we'll see how it turns out. Going down to Joltik now. This is another card that people were freaking out about on Twitter. It's kind of ridiculous. So 30 HP basic, weak little guy. But with its battery charge attack for one color, so you can search your deck for up to 2 basic grass and up to 2 basic lightning and attach them to your Pokemon in any way you like, no restrictions. So obviously, the first thing people think about with this is Iron Hands. You can just instantly charge up an Iron Hands, no problem. What else are you thinking about with this?
Yeah, there's another Terra Pokemon in a couple more in this set we'll get to later, which attack for grass and lightning
Mm-hmm.
energy costs. So you can use that to charge them up. But also just getting basic energy into play, like getting that many energy into play from one attack is uh, just like the Lapras, but this one's a way easier to power up than the Lapras. It's pretty extreme. Like you think about how powerful the Miraidon, the one prizer is in the
Yeah.
future box deck. That one can take a prize card, which is great, but you only get 2 energy. This one doesn't take the prize card, but you get 4 energy instead, which is pretty crazy. So, like, yeah, if there's ever a good colorless deck too, you can always you think about that as a way to accelerate
Yeah,
energies. If they print dragon types with these costs, like it's another card that's one to keep on the list of things to look out for, because the effect is so strong. Having 30 HP is pretty bad though right now
sure.
with the Monkey Dory existing, because that can just take a knockout. But if you're able to get like the Joltik like turn one and then immediately evolve it on the next turn into our next card called Angel EX, then yeah, then you don't have any downside from that.
Yeah, 30 HP is one of those things where it's like it feels pretty bad, but if you build your deck to be like all two prizes outside of that, it's also usually fine. Although I guess it's less so fine now because Briar exists and can potentially ruin the prize map. But like obviously Regidrago can play the Cleffa because they only play other two prizers. I was thinking about this with like future box type stuff. If you're doing like Iron Leaves EX and Iron Hands, you can charge them both up however you want. So that's kind of cool. But this does evolve into the Galvantula EX, as you alluded to, with its charge up attack for a lightning and colorless. Does 110 damage, but if your opponent's active Pokemon is an EX or a V, you do 110 more damage, so all the way up to 220. And then it's full Fulgurite attack for 180 damage. Needs a grass, a lightning, and a fighting. This is the attack you're mentioning earlier, or one of the attacks you're mentioning earlier. Discard all energy from this Pokemon during your opponent's next turn. They cannot play any item cards. Item lock. Yay. This is, I think our only other item lock thing right now is Banette, right?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So this does a lot more damage than
Yeah.
Banette. It's also a Terra Pokemon, so you can Briar with the 180 item lock too, to
Awesome.
just take a big knockout and then survive because your opponent can't do anything during the next turn. So yeah, there's the first attack is like it's serviceable.
Yeah.
It's not that great, but it hits good numbers.
Especially like
Um,
with Briar too, it might matter for hitting like a V for a knockout or something.
yeah, yeah. It's also got more HP than the Joltik, so if you um, evolve out of range of Monkey Dory, you
Yep.
can just play like a 1/1 Galvantula line or like 2/2/1 or something, and just have that for the HP bonus. You can also like lead with this as an attacker against some decks like Charizard. You can one shot Pidgeot with it, which
Yep.
is pretty good. So yeah, there's a lot going for this card. Locking out rare candy is sort of the main thing with this second attack.
Mm-hmm.
You can knock out Pidgeot with item lock in one hit. You can go Briar, full right, knock out a Pidgeot. That sounds
It's pretty
pretty
good.
powerful.
Yeah, the fact that this evolves from like an already really good basic is just ridiculous. And one that you'll probably want to play and attack with before you even get this out a lot of the time too. This thing's so good. Very excited to see. I mean, excited and not excited to play against item lock, but it is interesting and it does very. If it does like become a very popular type of deck, or this card's in a very popular type of deck, then it will typically like drastically change how a lot of decks kind of function in the format.
I think at least though, since you have to discard all the energies, it's a bit
It's a bit,
like
yeah,
it won't be like playing against Banette where you're just surviving under item lock the whole game. It'll be like uh, the opponent always has the option to do this combo play against me, where
yeah,
they
and
sort of
it's yeah,
hand disruption, item lock me out for one turn. Like sort of the theme of this set is a bunch of different things that let you win one turn sooner, or get an extra turn to play the game.
yeah, like you said, doing this against like a Pidgeot on a play like that is just so powerful and just can put you so much farther ahead or fix a situation when you're really far behind too. So pretty cool. Going on now to Slowking. Inspiring Challenge. Discard the top card of your deck. If that card is a Pokemon without a rule box, choose one of that Pokemon's attacks and use it as this attack, and that is for a Psychic and a Colorless. It kind of looks and reads like a meme attack. What were you thinking with it?
Yeah, so yeah, this is one of those cards I put out a tweet like a week or two ago. It's one of those attacks where we've seen effects like this before. They've always been bad, and everyone always immediately writes them off. But I think this is an example of when it's different. The last time was like Leafeon VMAX, which hit for an amount of energy in your opponent's retreat cost. Those attacks were been around since like base set, maybe not exactly base set, but close to it, and they've always been terrible. And then Leafeon is a great card. This card I think is similar because of the the Stadium card from Shrouded Fable
Hmm.
that lets you put a card from your hand on top of your deck. So you can put a card on top of your deck, reversal energy on Slowking, and immediately use whatever attack you want. The main one is Curum. So you can Trifrost for a reversal energy and a Stadium card. So anything that can like take that many prize cards in one turn, like no matter how hard the combo is, like we see the whole Regidrago V Star deck playing the Prime Catcher, canceling Cologne, and all the hassle to set up the Regidrago,
Yep.
and one of the main plays is that Curum. You can also use something like this, the what is it called, the Crobat, that just takes 2 extra prize cards if it knocks out something. So like a stage 1 that you can use the Crobat with. There's also the Dragapult, where the basic one where you discard as many Dreepy from your
Right,
bench
right.
and then do 100 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon for each Dreepy you discarded. So you could do a 4 prize turn with the Slowking if you manage to set that up. Um, uh, and yeah, all these plays, like they seem like Slowking doesn't actually require that much investment because you have like the reversal. If you're playing some kind of deck which just relies on reversal energies in general, you can just slot in a Slowking line.
Sure.
One of the benefits as well is that this Slowpoke evolves into the Twilight Inspiration Slowbro.
Ooh.
Um, so the one that when your opponent's at 1 prize card, you can take 2. So you can imagine some kind of deck where you're just playing reversal energies, and your game plan is attack with something, attack with Slowking for 2 prize cards or 3, with any random attack that'll get you there, and then finish off with the Slowbro. Um, and yeah, that sounds pretty powerful to me.
Seems pretty good. I didn't think about it with the context of the stadium. That stadium does make it. Yeah, it sounds like you can do a lot of fun things with it. Hiram seems pretty strong with it. Looking forward to what other attacks people decide to use, because you can do it with any attack with that rule box, and there's a lot of good attackers out there that don't have a rule box. So going on to Doshbun EX, I believe that's the next one. Yes.
I think you scroll that up.
Oh, did I
It's
miss
in the
it?
psychics. Yeah.
I did miss it. There we go. Full
Yeah.
meal time is its ability. Once during your turn, you may play. Once during your turn, when you play this card from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, you may heal all damage from each of your evolution Pokemon, and if you do, discard all energy from each Pokemon healed in this way. So this is basically evolve Cheryl, from previous formats, from pre-rotation. It also has an attack for double colorless, 130 damage. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now confused. I guess you're pointing out mostly for the heal effect and how good that is, right?
Yeah, yeah. Healing everything is pretty strong.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of like spread in the format, like Dusknoir setting up damage, Dusclops setting up damage, Dragapult, Monkey Dory, all these effects. You can just fully heal
Yeah.
everything, which is like yeah, it's insane. You can also like against a deck which just can't hit high numbers early game, like maybe even Charizard. Although Charizard can sort of use the Dusclopses to force prize cards, but you can like attack. You can go between multiple Dockspun and like just attack with one for 130 with a double turbo, and then evolve your second one, and then attack with that. You can Turo one, attack, evolve again, attack, like fully heal every turn, which is like a decent strategy
Mm-hmm.
against anything that can't one hit KO you, or if you have like a larger attacker that you're just fully healing, because you can combo this with Turo, which is like the big thing with it. But
Yeah.
you can play down the basic evolve, heal everything, Turo, bench it, and then now you have like the option to heal everything again the next turn. Um, so yeah, this could be definitely used for that. Like I could see maybe some future Gardevoir deck playing this card, just attacking with Gardevoir EX and healing it. Um, and like right now, there's a lot of stuff that one hit KOs Gardevoir, so that's not the best strategy. But there is a big 2-hit KO deck coming up in this set later, which keeping this healing in mind will be good against.
Yeah. As someone who played a lot of Cheryl from playing a lot of Rapid Strike last season. I missed the effect a lot. It was incredibly strong in that deck because you just naturally either put energy in your hand or discarded it fairly often. So your energy, your big V maxes very rarely had like energy on them in the first place, but the effect is so strong, especially now where there's even more big Pokemon going up and just all over the place. It seems really strong, as you mentioned with Turo too. So pretty exciting stuff. Going into Rhyperior with its wide wall ability, whilst this Pokemon is in the active spot, whenever your opponent plays a supporter Pokemon or supporter card from their hand, prevent all effects of that card done to your Pokemon in play. So what are all the main supporters that this blocks? So boss, right, is probably the first
Yeah, boss is
immediate
the
one.
main
Yeah,
one. Boss is, I think, the only really important one, but that stopping bosses is pretty good,
yeah,
pretty big deal.
yeah. Because like Briar and
You
stuff doesn't
can,
target the Pokemon technically. It's like the player, I guess.
yeah, yeah, yep. Any of the like discarding tool or energy supporters, those will be blocked as well. Those actually, it's a weird ruling, but they target the Pokemon and then the card attached.
Oh,
So this won't block that.
weird.
Um, the similar effect is on like Diancie. We have one in format, but that only blocks supporter effects done to your basic Pokemon. Um, so yeah, Diancie wouldn't stop like evolving a bunch of stuff on the bench, and that's what this card I think will be. Uh, if it ever sees play, it'll be used in some deck where you're setting up a monster bench of like a 4 stage 2 combo that involves a couple Dusknors and whatever, probably a Briar in there,
Hmm.
and you're setting up for some big play. The attack's also like not
Yeah,
terrible.
for sure.
Using for a reversal energy, like thinking about that Slowbro deck before, you could use the Rhyperior to force your opponent to keep going through the active, and sort of control the prize race that way, always staying behind so your opponent can't use counter catcher, and then getting ahead in the end. So yeah, I could definitely see this seeing play.
Yeah, pretty interesting card. Very cool effect. Medicham EX. It is not. It does have a Yoga attack, but it is not Yoga Loop. It is not Medicham V. As a Chiatsu attack for 2 colorless, you can put damage counters on your opponent's active Pokemon until its remaining HP is 50. And its other attack is just fighting in 2 colorless, do 190 damage. Not full shred, but it isn't affected by weakness or resistance. I imagine that first effect you've been thinking of fun ways to use that.
Yeah, I think the main one is so we already have a Serena EX
Yep.
which has like a similar attack, but that's a stage 2. On a stage 1 is a lot better
Mm-hmm.
or a lot easier to use. You can combo it with like poison stuff with Brute Bonnet if you want to get a regular one hit KO. But I think the more promising like route is using this with something like Crobat, the one that lets you take 2 extra prize cards with a knockout. So you can sort of set up a couple things, like 2 attacks of the Metacham into 2 Crobat attacks will win you the game um, pretty easily. You can even knock out something with Dusclops if you want to,
Sure.
with the 50 damage. So yeah, I could definitely see this coming up because of that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, this is. It's funny that they kind of printed basically the same thing again, just an easier way to do it. But going now to Diancie. Did I
That
miss
was
it?
in the fighting as
It isn't
well.
fighting.
Yeah,
I
right
just
below.
because the other Diancie is psychic, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
That's why I got confused. So, special refraction is its first attack. For 1 colorless, you do 40 damage for each special energy card attached to your opponent's Pokemon. This is the other Lugia thing you were talking about earlier.
Yeah. Yeah, so this card one shots Iron Hands, and that's it. And that's all it needs to do. I'm happy. I love this card. Uh, yeah, this is great. I wish it had 70 HP so that I could Poffin for it. Aside
True.
from that, yeah,
Yeah, 110
um,
HP on it.
pretty good.
Super. Again, if your card defeats Iron Hands, you're a good card in Jake Gearhart's book. Going
Yep.
down now to Kling Klang, skipping all the dark types. Emergency spin. Once during your turn, if this Pokemon is in your hand and your opponent has a stage 2 in play, you may put this Pokemon onto your bench. And this attack is 2 colorless, 130 damage, discard all energy from this Pokemon. So we've seen this effect a bunch. Not like the Luxray is probably the biggest one that people will think of, but instead of needing just like a prize card requirement. It's just your opponent has a stage 2, which is pretty common, and you can put it on your bench. Is it like? Do you think what's why do you want to play this card, Jake?
Yeah, the main use case is for Chen Pao.
Okay, yes, that makes
So
sense.
it's always been like Chen Pao. I in many decks in the past, like over the past year, there would have been, if there was some easy like high HP, something that had more than 130 HP, ideally more than 120, so that Iron Hands can't knock it
Hmm.
out. More than 130, so that Baxcalibur can't knock it out. That also one shots Chen Pao. It would be like a great tech in something like an Arceus deck,
Yep.
or just anything that struggles with Chen Pao, because they have literally no good way to deal with this card. Nothing one shots it except for Chen Pao, which you can just rod back the Kling Kling and do this attack again. And then he made it do 130 damage. So with a double turbo, you're doing 110 times 2 because of Chen Pao's weakness, 220. So yeah, the game designers clearly thought that Chen Pao was going to be, or could be at some point, or already was too good,
Sure.
and so they printed this card. And I think there's a reason why they probably printed this card as well, is because so it seems like from what I've heard from some people, that the game designers, at least TPCI, get to see the cards about 7 or 8 months before. I think it's like, yeah, between like 6 and 8 months before they actually come
Hmm.
out, um, before they come out in English. So in Japan, about 8 months ago was the release of Paradox Rift, and we saw at the start the Chen Pao Iron Hands deck like dominating in Japan, and so I think it's not a coincidence that this card comes out 8 months later.
Sure.
The game designers maybe just making sure that wasn't going to continue forever.
Yep. Yeah, makes sense. Cool card. Going to the Noctowl, which I'm very excited for this card. It is kind of Inteleon 2.0. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during your turn, if you have any Terra Pokemon in play, you may search your deck for up to two trainer cards. Reveal them, put them in your hand, shuffle your deck. Uh, Shady Dealings is back, sort of. What do you?
Yeah,
Are you excited for this?
yeah. So this card's, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Again, this is a stage 1, by the way.
Uh, Yeah. So the thing with Inteleon was that like Inteleon was your engine for the entire game. Like you just use it to search for one or two cards every turn, and usually one of those cards was a scoop up net where you could recycle the Inteleon to just have infinite
Yep.
search, sort of like a manual quick search effect, where you're basically your Inteleon line would act like a quick search every turn, because you'd keep getting the scoop up net searching for one card. This card is more like combo focused, because you can't reuse it, but it's a stage 1, so it's much easier to get into
Hmm.
play. Like you can get many more knocked out into play on a single turn. So like one of the things immediately that you can think about is Arezu is a supporter card that searches your deck for 3 evolution non-rule box Pokemon. So you can search for 6 trainer cards in one turn if you want to. So there's lots of combos you can do. You could play 3 Glass Trumpet and 3 Energy Switch
Jeez. Yep.
and power up a Dialga V Star in one
Power
turn.
up your Lapras
Um,
with like 6 water
or
energy, and then you're
yeah,
set.
yeah. Yeah. You can't Glass Trumpet to
Yeah,
the
you can get
non-colorless.
4 switches though, and then have
Yeah,
fun.
you can get 4 switch. Yeah, yeah. Double Trumpet 4 switch. That works. Yeah. Uh, you can play you can pull off a Thornton play with this. You can go like a couple Glass Trumpets, couple Energy Switch, and then a Thornton into Dialga V Star and
Sure.
do that out of nowhere if you want. Um, yeah, anything possible. All these like Briar combos. You can if you need you could search for the tool card that makes your Terra's attack for less. The Water Ogre Pawn, canceling Cologne, Counter Catcher, and Briar, and then take a 4 prize turn, 3 or 4 prize turn with Water Ogre Pawn, uh, because Water Ogre Pawn is a Terra
Yep.
Pokemon, so you can do that with the Briar. So yeah, you can do too much. with this card. We'll see how it actually turns up. I'm sure the game designers tested it thoroughly because they wouldn't have printed this effect if it like obviously broke the game. But they've missed stuff in the
For
past,
sure.
and I wouldn't be shocked if they missed something here.
This
Um,
card's
but
awesome.
yeah, yeah. One of like the simplest combos though you can do with this is just if you have a Terra Pokemon and play rare candy, search for rare candy plus Feather Ball and get a Pidgeot
Yep.
and play, or Ultra Ball and get some other stage too, which we'll be talking about again in a second
Yeah,
because of the next
and
cards.
and pointing out too, this is also a colorless Pokemon, so this is your glass trumpet target too. So it's even easier
Yeah,
to
yeah,
just like get like there's so many cool combos that you can pull off with a lot of these cards in this set. This is gonna be very exciting for all the deck builders out there. I just hope it turns into a good format as a result. But speaking of, after going past this very cute Prugly, is the Fan Rotom, which is very good with those cards and some other cards too. But on your first turn, you may use this ability. Search your deck for 3 colorless Pokemon with 100 HP or less. Again, Noctowl has 100 HP. Reveal them, put them in your hand, and then shuffle your deck. You can't use the ability if you already did another fan call, so it's just one time. Its attack is also like not bad, 1 colorless, 70 damage, but there needs to be a Stadium play, otherwise you cannot attack. So yeah, combos pretty well with stuff like Noctowl, Hoot Hoot, etc.
yeah. So this card, I'm not a huge fan of like that you can only use on the first
Yeah,
turn. I would have rather have them do like you can only use one in a game or something, or like only use it when you haven't attacked yet or something
sure.
like that. Because this will have the same like feels bad as VIP pass, which I'm sure everybody was used to. At least like you can use any of your search cards for this. But you can grab like two Hoot and a Noctowl to have like a fully fixed hand because Noctowl does have 100
Mm-hmm.
HP. Um, and the attack is also actually really good, I think. All the basic all the basics with 70 HP, you just need a stadium card and play in 1 energy, and you can knock them
Yep.
out on the first turn with a 1 prizer now. So this is yeah a great consistency boost and like a turn
Yeah,
one
it's
attacker.
it's it's like Battle VIP Pass, but also can take a prize card.
Yeah,
and and
and
and
you can search for it a little more easily.
And there's a stadium you do want to play with these cards, which is the one we talked about, the Area Zero. Like you want more bench slots, so you can put down more Hoot Hoots, more Noctowls. There's good stadiums to play in this set and also last set as well. So there's even more options you have for that. Anything else you want to mention with Fan Rotom?
Well, nothing aside from it combos with one of the next cards we're going to talk about. The
Boofalint,
next one,
100
all these
HP.
cards you can see combo together.
So a lot of good colorless Pokemon in this set, huh? So Curly Wall is its ability. If you have another Bouffalant in play, all your basic colorless Pokemon take 60 less damage from attacks done by your opponent's Pokemon. You cannot apply more than 1 Curly Wall ability at a time, so no stacking there. And then 130 damage attack for 3 colorless, and it cannot attack on the following turn.
Yeah, so this one, this effect is just really
Yeah.
powerful. Minus 60 damage for colorless Pokemon.
On
If you're
basic
playing
colorless, but yeah.
on basics, yeah, yeah. If you're playing sort of a deck like this, this specific like Noctowl, Rotom, Bouffalant package to fill your bench, you can use. You don't have to play Manaphy because your opponent's Radiant Greninja does
Yeah,
30
there's
30.
nothing.
Um, yeah.
Ridiculous.
And yeah, just minus 60 in general, like for stall decks, that kind of thing is like very powerful. There's the old Bouffalant, which does like 40 and then puts an energy from your opponent's active into the lost zone. So you can combo this with that one because you do need 2 Bouffalant in play. And then that will have I think that one has 130 HP, so effective 190 HP. Put a Bravery Charm on that, and then you've got like a 240 HP thing that's lost zoning your energies, which is a problem for something like Gardevoir
Yeah.
or Charizard. Like hard for them to deal with that in the early game. Um, and if even if you're not comboing with them with the Bouffalant that already exists, you can combo it with the next card that is designed to work with this archetype, the Terrapagos EX. The game designer is always back to their printing an archetype in a set.
Yep.
At least this one's got a lot of moving
This
pieces
one's,
that
yeah,
can
it
be used
seems
elsewhere.
very crazy. Definitely the thing I'm most excited to immediately start playing with in this set. So Terapagos EX, 230 HP basic. Unified Beatdown is its first attack. You cannot use this attack during your first turn going second, which is a pretty unique effect that I don't think any other card really has right now. At least any like damaging card that people are playing.
I don't think this effect has ever been used before. Yeah,
Interesting.
it's
Okay,
really
I know.
cool.
There's
Yeah.
trying to think. Yeah, yeah.
There's always attacks that you can use on, like, you can only use on your first turn
Sure.
going
Yep.
second, or can only use on your, or you can use on your first turn going first, but nothing that you can't use the attack on your first turn.
Yeah, pretty interesting. For 2 colorless, you do 30 damage for each of your bench Pokemon, and again, you can go all the way up to 8 bench Pokemon with Area 0. It also has the Crown Opal attack for grass, water, and lightning during your opponent's next turn. Prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from basic non-colorless Pokemon. What else did you want to say with it? Seems pretty good.
Yeah, this card's really good. Like Bouffalant, and you immediately have a 290 HP basic that attacks for 2 energy. 2 hit KOs pretty much everything.
Yep.
And you can play Penny or Sharon's Care and loop this, and just play like a resource war, basically. Which I think is a very cool take on these. Like the only other times we've had the 8 bench effect would have been Eternatus VMAX and Mega Rayquaza EX back in the day, and those were both like one-shot decks.
Yeah,
You fill your
yeah.
bench and you one-shot your opponent, like sort of glass cannon one-shotters. This tech is actually the exact same as Mega Rayquaza's, costs 1 less energy.
Mm-hmm.
But 10 years later, or I guess 9 or 8 years later, yeah, whatever. And
It all blends together for you at this
the
point.
the damage is a lot less. Like you're not one-shotting too much anymore. You're still one-shotting like basic Vs and basic EXs, so Rotom and Lumineon are safe. But 2 hit KOs and healing, and you're searching for a card every turn. It sounds a lot like Arceus and Inteleon from a
Yep.
year and a half ago. So yeah, this card's very good. There you can use the Glass Trumpet obviously to power it up. You can use double turbo energy if you want. Having that second attack is pretty important for it too, because you need an answer for something like Raging Bolt, Ogerpon, where they'd otherwise be able to one shot you. It's also very interesting in against like just any basic attacking deck is going to have to deal with this. Something like Lost Box will have to do something because they have no answer for the Crown Opal right now.
You can't even like basic fighting Pokemon KO it if they're doing that attack. So you need like a stage 1 fighting Pokemon or something. You need your Medicham to deal with it. There you go.
Yeah.
But
you can also use the Joltik to get all these energies in play because it's grass and lightning. And then also the water energy in the attack cost. So Radiant Greninja, another option for the deck. Like I'm sure that like an energy switch build with just like 1 or 2 energy switch and some water energies, and then the Glass Trumpets for Radiant Greninja is probably going to be played because of how strong Moonlight Shuriken is. But yeah, I think this is like probably a tier 1 archetype.
It seems good.
Off the road, because and you can combo with so many different things. Like people have already been putting like Palkia V-Star. I've seen that as like a partner for this because you can subspace well for a lot of damage with the maximum bench.
Oh yeah, jeez.
Oh
my gosh, I didn't think about Palkia.
Also power up Radiant Greninja. Yeah. There's a lot of combos.
Oh my goodness, it's disgusting.
Yeah, the fact that this is so low maintenance too, like you can just play like 2 Terapagos, 2 Penny, and then like a couple double turbos, and then that's like half the game is played for you just with those 6 cards. And then you can play whatever else in the deck you want for other matchups. So you could play a ton of different tech cards, tech attackers. I think it could be very interesting.
Yeah, all right. You've heard it here. Terapagos is the play for whatever the second regional of the season is in NA that we mentioned that we can't remember the name of. I also want to say too, like I was thinking about this like downside before. You can't use this attack during your first turn going second. And that's not too bad when you have, like, again, the Fan Rotom's pretty good attack to use on that turn specifically when there's probably a weak Pokemon in front of you. So a lot of stuff. There's again, plenty of decent colorless Pokemon that have decent attacks that you can probably smack with. So anything else you want to mention?
I just love I think the game designers like recognizing that this effect is like a resource that they have available to them to disable the attack on turn 1, and actually doing it for the first time is like very encouraging to me that
It's cool.
they're at least trying to do something good here, because it would be like very random to just pull this attack off first turn and one shot something.
Hmm.
And so removing that possibility for randomness, making the game a bit slower, is just in general pretty good. There's also like an electivire in this set as well, which says that during your next turn, none of your Pokemon can attack, which is a new like unique effect, like unique restriction
Oh
on
yeah, that it
attacking.
includes Pokemon that
Um,
come into play this turn. Yeah.
yeah. So I think I'd like to see more of these types of effects. I wish the Electivire was a little bit better. Like if they made like something that did like 300 damage, but you can't attack at all next turn. Like that'd be pretty interesting. Um, and also say that like you can't use it to like win the game with or something, so it's not a closer attack.
Yeah.
Um, but we always see like effects like Zashi and V, where you can't, this Pokemon can't attack during your next turn, but then you just switch it out of the active and back in, and then it attacks. Whereas this is a pretty unique take on it.
Cool. All right, we covered a lot of cards, a lot of cool stuff coming in the Stellar Crown set. Again, releasing in September. Looks like it's going to shake up the game quite a bit in a lot of different ways. I'm very excited for it. Jake, where can people find you? Any shout outs you want to do?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Jake Gearhart, and obviously on this channel. I'm here a lot now, and I'll continue to be.
Heck yeah, you are. And what was I gonna say? Oh, yeah, you can follow me too on Twitter at EtchyOK. I also stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/Etchy. I want to give a thanks to cutortap.com for supporting the team. You check out all their cool articles over there. And then we're going to go record a quick little bonus episode for our Patreon, which you can check out in the description if you want to see a bunch of bonus episodes of the podcast. And I'll probably put up some more bonus videos there once I record a bunch of stuff with the DDG members that are here in town. I'm going to record a bunch of stuff for like future videos. I might upload parts of it early on there, so you can check that out as well. But we're going to talk about some other world stuff. We're going to leak a little bit more of the spice, I guess. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe. And whenever we do these kind of videos in between the main format for the podcast, which again is normally just like going through all the decks that are relevant for like an upcoming tournament with all the players, if there's any other topics you want us to cover or like talk about during this time, I've been thinking about doing an episode on like learning and improvement. I know Jake's been talking about doing a retro type of episode. If you're interested in that kind of stuff, definitely let us know in the comments below, and we can definitely tackle them at some point. So thank you so much for watching this episode of the Dead Draw Gaming Podcast, and we'll see you all next time. Take care.